It is 1:30 Universal Time. I'm John Dryden in Washington. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says Israel will move forward on a plan to remark its borders if the Palestinian government does not change its policies. Mr. Olmert spoke to a joint meeting of the United States Congress Wednesday. He said Israel is willing to negotiate with the Hamas-led government in the Palestinian Authority. But he said Hamas must stop terrorism and recognize Israel's right to exist. He also said that Israel would not let a terrorist group block progress. Representatives of 6 nations have met in London for talks about the dispute over Iran's nuclear program. The 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and Germany sent diplomats to the talks. American Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice said the officials failed to reach a final agreement. She says more talks may be needed. The officials discussed a European offer of trade and technology aid for Iran if it stops enrichment work with the element uranium. They also are discussing possible actions against Iran if the offer fails. Western countries suspect that Iran plans to make nuclear weapons. Iran denies the accusations. President Bush and British Prime Minister Tony Blair will meet Thursday in Washington. A spokesman for the Bush administration says he does not believe the 2 leaders will give a date for a withdrawal of troops in Iraq. Mr. Bush said Tuesday he will be able to re-examine Iraq's needs for American military help now that the new unity government is in place. But he did not give a date for the withdrawal of American troops from Iraq. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki said Wednesday that Iraqi forces will be able to take control of security around the whole country within 18 months. American intelligence officials have confirmed that the voice of Osama bin Laden is heard on a recording that was released Tuesday. The Central Intelligence Agency said its experts identified the speaker after a technical examination of the recording. In the message, the al-Qaeda leader spoke about the terror attacks against the United States on September 11, 2001. He said that Zakaria Moussaoui was not involved in the attacks. Moussaoui admitted guilt to 6 terror charges last year. He is now serving a life prison sentence in the United States. Mexican President Vicente Fox is calling for complete immigration reform in the United States. President Fox says it would help both the United States and Mexico. Mr. Fox spoke in the United States Wednesday to a special meeting of the Utah State Legislature. He said Mexico does not support illegal immigration. He said Mexico has called for a system that would control the flow of people across the border. He said it should permit movement in a legal, safe, and orderly way. Mr. Fox also said that Mexico must continue to expand economic opportunities so immigration becomes a decision, not a necessity. On Tuesday, Mr. Fox told a group of people in Utah that building a fence along the United States border is not the answer to the immigration problem. You are listening to the news in VOA Special English. Heavy rains in the Cuban capital Havana have killed 3 people, flooded homes, and forced many people to leave the area. Officials say the rains began Tuesday. More than 12 centimeters of water fell in the capital in a 2-hour period. The Communist Party daily newspaper Granma reports that officials removed people from homes in areas where water levels reached 1 meter. Flooded streets also stopped traffic in the city. A new public opinion study in Brazil has shown President Luiz Inácio da Silva has a wider lead in presidential elections planned for October. The company, called Census, did the study. It says Mr. da Silva would win the election with 41% of the votes if the election were held right now. His main opponent is former Sao Paulo Governor Zeraldo Alckmin. The study shows Mr. Alckmin with 19% of voter support. In order to win the presidency, a candidate must win more than 50% of the vote. The study questioned 2,000 people throughout the country over 4 days. The World Health Organization says it is still concerned about several recent cases of the deadly bird flu disease in Indonesia. However, officials say that there is no current evidence that the disease has become more dangerous to human beings. WHO scientists are investigating the bird flu deaths of 6 members of the same family in Indonesia. Experts say they may have infected each other. In other news, hundreds of people in the area of Bucharest remain separated from other people, while Romania deals with a large spread of bird flu. No human cases have been reported, but thousands of birds have been killed in the capital and in several villages. Australia's defense minister says the nation will soon begin a withdrawal of troops from the Solomon Islands. Australia sent about 400 troops to the islands last month following rioting in Solomon's capital, Honiara. The riots began after the election of Snyder Rini as Prime Minister. Mr. Rini resigned several days later. He was replaced earlier this month by Manasa Sogavare. In a statement Wednesday, Australian Defence Minister Brendan Nelson said his country will begin withdrawing those troops now that the country is calm once again. He said about 140 troops will remain as part of an international peacekeeping force. Briefly, here again is the major news of the hour. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert says Israel will move forward on a plan to remark its borders if the Palestinian government does not change its policies. Representatives of 6 nations have met in London for talks about the dispute over Iran's nuclear program. American intelligence officials have confirmed that the voice of Osama bin Laden is heard on a recording that was released Tuesday. And the World Health Organization says it is still concerned about several recent cases of the deadly bird flu disease in Indonesia. And that is the news in VOA Special English. I'm John Dryden